Hi there. If you're new around here, you can call me Rose, and that's okay because I'm new around here too. I decided to bite the bullet and do a makeup video of that blue glittery cut crease look that I did a couple of videos ago. As you can see, my house is not at all set up to do videos like this, or any videos at all really. And I am blind as a bat without my glasses. So we're gonna see if this comes out as busted as I think it might, but maybe it won't. And at the same time, you know, it's a good opportunity for me to talk about some stuff that I'd like to talk about. So with that in mind, I am moisturized and primed already. And we're gonna go ahead and get started. What I would like to talk about is when you're following your dreams, the amount of struggle that you put in and how important it is to embrace those struggles in your life, because you know, it's kind of my philosophy that no one escapes this life without some sort of element of struggle, and no one gets out of this life without some sort of pain, you know, whether that's losing people or going through a traumatic experience, or just your living situation, your environment. You know, maybe you're like me and you grew up in poverty, and you know, my parents, I love my parents. My dad has been gone. He died about almost 18 years ago, but I know they tried to do their best, and they often did what they thought was best for my brother and me. By the way, that was an orange concealer. This is a green concealer. I'm using this to correct some redness. But the best way to deal with what I'm talking about is, since everybody is gonna have to deal with struggles in this life, in this world, the best thing that we can do is to identify what in our lives is worth the struggle, what in your life is worth the pain that you're inevitably going to have to put into it. And that goes for your career, your dream job or whatever, your home, your relationships. And I guess I wanted to talk about this when I was doing this video, because I put a lot of practice into learning how to do makeup, because for a while there I thought I was going to be a makeup artist, and I don't know what happened to that dream. I feel like it kind of fell away from me for a reason. I feel like maybe it wasn't really my calling, it wasn't really my purpose, and I don't know, a part of me still thinks about maybe someday I'll go to makeup school or even art school or something and learn more about it than I already have. I spent, I don't know, maybe 2 years or so going real hard learning makeup. This is a regular concealer. It's NYX. I usually don't use drugstore concealers or anything like that, because concealer is one of the few things that I'm very picky about, but this is actually pretty good. And you know, I think some of the happiest people are the ones who identified their dream and really put all their blood, sweat, and tears into realizing their dreams. And that's the struggle that they were willing to go through to have their dream job, to do something they love every day. You know, we always joke about that, but it's like when you have a job, time can't go fast enough. When you have a career that you love, you lose track of time. You lose track of time working on projects, and I don't think I ever found that. At least not yet. Before, I wanted to be a makeup artist. I was going to school, learning biology. I know a lot about biology. By the way, this is powder. It's just regular translucent powder. Just pat that on with a brush. I was going to school ultimately to be a nurse, but for various reasons that I won't get into, didn't pan out. I had to drop out, and once I dropped out, I found myself questioning whether or not it was what I really wanted to do with my life. The struggles that are present right in front of me right now, I feel like if I just power through those struggles, eventually it's going to be worth it. It's going to be worth everything, you know? And then again, maybe it won't. Maybe I'm making a big mistake, but I figure this is gonna help me heal and figure out who I am as a person again. And that's never a mistake. I read this book that's really closely aligned with this philosophy that I'm talking about here, which is called The Subtle Art of Not Giving a Fuck. And it's by a dude named Mark Manson. And he talks about that a lot in this book. He talks about how, you know, you don't always have to be the best at everything. You don't always have to be perfect. And you don't always have to be doing things just to get by. Because that's not the key to happiness. The key to happiness is figuring out what in your life is worth giving a fuck about. Because if you give a fuck about everything, then it all loses meaning. And he goes on to say that a lot of the times people who try to be positive constantly and try to beat down their negative emotions and negative experiences are usually the ones that are more likely to end up being even more depressed than they ever were. And that's true, because it's a detriment to everybody when we don't acknowledge and process what we're going through, even though it might not be perfectly 100% positive all the time. You know, if you don't acknowledge your struggles, then you're unable to identify the things that are worth struggling for. And cue the blending music. If you want to achieve this perfect contour, just grab your chisel brush and chisel the crap out of your face. Contouring, keep in mind that you're trying to create hollows and shadows on your face. So just blend to create that chisel. For instance, I prefer to shorten my nose a little bit and hollow the cheekbones. Now, I mentioned some old lady stuff, and we're about to get some real old school stuff going on here. I have my Midnight Luxury Powder in Cameo, and I'm gonna bake that concealer on and use this to clean up that contour and everything else. Yes, this is old school right here. And we're gonna leave this on for quite a while. So I know it's about to look real crazy, but trust me, it's gonna work out. Anybody that is great at anything started out as a beginner. Any great makeup artist started out looking busted. Any great painter started out drawing stick figures. Anybody who became great didn't become great overnight. They poured hours, days, weeks, months, years of their lives into becoming great. They identified the things that were worth struggling for excellence. Anybody that is great at anything didn't become great overnight. They became great after years, sometimes a lifetime of practice. Don't stop doing something that you love just because there are people that are better at it than you are. Because the truth is, they're not better than you. They've just been doing it longer. Especially when it comes to creative pursuits, I find it hard to say that anybody's better than anybody else because it's all so subjective, you know. I've been talking about struggling. I'm gonna struggle to create this cut crease here. Don't worry if your cut crease isn't perfect because we're gonna go back in and clean it up later on. I'm gonna blend that out. And it's also a good thing to keep in mind too when you're looking at makeup tutorials and all of that. Any look that anybody does, any look I do, any look any other makeup artist, I use that term loosely for myself, but any other makeup artist on YouTube, anything they do is just a template. I just happen to like the combination of blue and with the orange lip that I'm gonna do. I don't know why, but the combination is just so stunning to me. I'm just gonna deepen that crease a little bit. Forgive me, I have to lean forward to be able to see. Grab a good old blending brush and blend that out. Blending music, please. I know this is gonna look a little bit crazy, but again, I just ask you to trust me because it's gonna work out. More blending. This was not ideal, and I see that now. And once again, blend like your life depends on it. Now that that looks all blended, we can keep going. That's how you do it. That was a weak one. Go ahead and set that concealer with powder. And you just want to make sure that you'll get an even blend when you put a color down, and that it's not tacky from the concealer. I'm really not used to talking and putting on makeup at the same time. I'm usually silent and focused and in my flow. The concept of flow is basically total immersion into something that, anything that you're doing. And you know, it's that whole losing track of time thing. You're so absorbed with your task or your activity. This is silver, by the way. You're so absorbed with your task or activity, you lose track of time. You are thoroughly enjoying it, and it was coined by this psychologist who had studied happiness all throughout his career, and he introduced the concept of flow into the psychology of happiness circles. And I believe it's very important because I believe most people would relate flow to their artistic pursuits. You know, they give a lot of different examples about what could constitute flow, and because it really doesn't matter what the activity is. It just matters that you feel immersed and happy. It's often regarded as the optimal experience. By the way, I'm about to do my eyebrows. I'm not done with my eyes, but I'm gonna let them cook a little bit. And I'm gonna do my eyebrows right now. And I'm gonna be real honest, I'm gonna be real, say that eyebrows are probably about the weakest part of my makeup game. We'll just throw on the blending music for this one because I gotta get up close. They say that eyebrows don't need to be twins, they just need to be sisters. Most of the time I'll settle for two girls that went to the same high school and vaguely knew each other. I'm going in right now with this is like a, I don't know, like a midnight blue eyeliner. I'm going in on the waterline with this. I think art is the perfect vehicle for a lot of people to achieve flow in their life. Our evolution is built around our innovation, and I think a big part of the reason that a lot of people end up suffering from depression is because we end up in situations and in places in our lives where we're unable to be creative to the degree that we even if we're not completely aware of it, to the degree that we want and need to be on the inside. I'm just blending a little bit of that. I'm blending a little shadow underneath. And our faces have been cooking for a really long time now. So I'm gonna go ahead and dust this powder off. When I was going to school for biology, it was also right around the time I really started putting more, putting more effort into learning makeup, especially toward the end of my school. I was in school for a really long time, and I'll tell you why. Because I know it's gonna seem like I'm just very stupid, which is possible. But I graduated high school with like a 2.5, something like that. And that's because my dad died when I was about a month into high school. And please notice that I am placing the blush on my cheek by patting it on, not just scrubbing it on. Like, I go first, just tap it right on. So when I was in high school, I decided I didn't care anymore after my dad died. And I failed a lot. I failed like my first 2 years. And ironically enough, I had to go to summer school for biology, which was my major in college, and I excelled at. When I actually put in the effort, I practically got straight A's in college. I like how I'm intersplicing makeup tips and serious real talk about flow and life struggles and all that, but use your brush to kind of blend that blush into the contour so it looks kind of more like it's supposed to be there and not just like a block of pink on top of brown. So the point I'm making is my dad died. I failed a lot when I was in high school. Didn't take my SATs, and I thought I was never gonna go to college. Because why would I go to college, right? So it wasn't until I was like maybe approaching my mid-20s that I made the decision to go back. And since I didn't take my SATs or anything, I had to start from scratch. And it took me a very long time to get through my college classes because I just didn't care enough in high school. I'm doing liquid, you're gonna have to wait. By the way, this is my favorite eyeliner. It's pretty much the only eyeliner I fuck with. It is called Matte Liquid Liner, and it is by NYX, and it is the best liquid eyeliner I have ever used. Because I had to start from scratch and do everything over again that I did in high school, basically, because I failed so much. The point is, by the time I started leaving school, by the time I got to that point where I was almost to the end, I had really started getting into makeup. And I was really just kind of over it, you know. I was like, by the time I had gotten toward the end of my time when I was in college, I noticed, and this is just me thinking back and ruminating on all that I've been through, but like I was sick of not being creative. I started feeling like I was in a slump creatively, and I didn't have time for anything except kind of cultivating I guess like a more daring and exaggerated look that kind of similar to the way that my look was already, but I really got more into makeup, and I liked the creativity, the creative expression of it, because that was pretty much all I had at that point. I mean, at the time I didn't think much of it, but now I wonder if it was just like I was just clawing for something creative to do. I was just, you know, I was going through the motions of going through college, and I hadn't done anything. I had taken some art classes and stuff like that when I was in college, and they were great, but they didn't fulfill me because still 100% of my effort was going into biology. I've always been, I was a fairly, you know, I wouldn't say artistic, but I was a child who would draw weird pictures for my parents' friends when they came over, and I was always making something. I was always drawing or coloring or singing or writing. Maybe everything that I've ever pursued was leading up to this moment in my life where, yeah, it's gonna be a struggle. it's gonna be a struggle to do YouTube. It's gonna be a struggle for someone like me to do YouTube. I don't know if it'll ever go anywhere, but I get to be creative every day if I want to. I don't plan on giving this up because I just want to do a small thin line. I'm going to go ahead and use eyelash adhesive, and I'm just going to paint a little, paint a line right along that cut crease. Go in with my little itty bitty angle brush. I'm gonna spritz that with some, this is just setting spray. And I'm just gonna go in and just lightly press that glitter right over that glue. Right over that cut crease, like so. I'm gonna go ahead and dust the glitter off my face, because it's a little bit dull. But the glue should keep it in place pretty well. We're getting close to the end here, and with that in mind, I guess I kind of want to put a little bit of a cap on my thoughts, because I know I've kind of rambled a lot in this video. I'm gonna go ahead and do lashes. Do lashes, and I'm gonna wrap up my thoughts here. Do I think YouTube is gonna be worth it for me to stick with it, to put in the hours, to put in the struggle? And the answer is yes. I do think it's worth it. I do, because I have gotten that little tingle of excitement, you know, when I've been learning how to edit videos, something I've never done before. I got that little tingle of excitement, you know, just giving myself new challenges every week to create new things and talk about them, and talk about why I think creation is important and why it's so integral to this channel that I'm trying to do, and why I think it's such an integral part of healing from trauma and pain. And really, it's one of the best ways you can learn who you are. It's one of the best ways that you can process your pain and learn to rebuild yourself. Because once you learn to rebuild yourself from the rubble, there's nothing anybody can do to stop you. Art is something tangible to hang on to when you feel like you're slipping away. And that's something that I've needed, because I felt like I was slipping away a few times here recently. Art has been my anchor. This channel has become a vehicle that I'm using to toss my anchor overboard and plop myself down right here, right now. It gives me gives me a vessel, and it gives me a veil through which that I can process and facilitate thought, especially writing. It's always done that for me. I'm a much more eloquent writer, I'm a more eloquent writer than I am a speaker. And I think a friend pointed out to me that this can only help me become a better speaker, because I'm kind of in my life, I'm kind of this strong silent type. I don't open up and talk to people very often. I generally let other people do the talking, and I listen, and I find other ways to express myself, or I find those specific people that I feel like I can talk to, and I'll open up to them. I don't have very many of those. A lot of people try stuff in their 20s, like me, and for whatever reason, it doesn't pan out. And then you're left trying to find a new purpose. And right now I feel like this is mine, because if I can help even one person become more self-aware, less anxious or depressed, less anchored to their trauma rather than their creativity and their pursuit of their own purpose. If I can help even one person come into themselves in even a small way, then that'll make all this worth it. And even if it's not even something as dramatic as coming into yourself, coming of age, or whatever you want to call it, even if it's just a moment where somebody says, that prompt helped me create something that gave me an opportunity to process something that I couldn't process before, then it's worth it. This is my orange lipstick, the liquid lipstick. In other words, I think I'm gonna stick around. At least for a little while. And I hope someday I can help other people find what makes their struggle worth it. For all I know, this was the worst makeup tutorial video ever, because I was looking down and slouching and rambling and trying to come up with something eloquent to say. That was a good talk. But the struggle is worth it. And I'm just gonna keep going. So, remember, go out there and make yourself.